Welcome back to the Word Expanded, the Gospel Edition. Hey, we are in the story of Matthew chapter 4. We're going to read verses 5 through 11 right now. We're talking about the temptation of Jesus. Again, I keep wanting to say this. Oh, yes, he would. God allowed Jesus to be tempted for 40 days, right? Go without food for 40 days and then be tempted, right? Pick it up in verse 5. We're going to get the second temptation of Jesus. Then the devil took him to the holy city, set him on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you. And on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory, and he said to him, "All these I will give to you if you fall down and worship me." Then Jesus said to him, "Begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, right? And him only shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and were ministering to him. All right, so we finish up the second and the third temptations of Jesus, which represent the whole crux of what the enemy wants. He wants us to try to be disobedient. Right? Hey, you're fasting for 40 days. Break your fast. Go eat. You can do this. You can have this. Hey, God said, wait for this. No, just go get it now. God, he promised it to you. Go get it right now. We deal with this all the time. Right? Did God really say, wait for this? If he promised you that you're going to get the job, go get it. If he promised you the car, go get it. If he promised you kids, go get them. You can make this happen. Right? Then he talks about, he attacks the protection of God. Hey, why don't you cast yourself down, right? Why don't you cast yourself down and ask the angels to save you, right? Test God in this. It's exactly what the enemy wants you and I to do all the time. He wants us, right, to test God. He wants us, right, hey, God said that you can do this. Well, go do it, right? And then watch to see if God protects you. Walk out in the middle of the street, right? Walk out into a bunch of lions and see if God's going to protect you, right? Test God in the craziness of these things. God says, no, don't put God at the test that. God wants you to test his promises. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I will always take care of you. That's a God thing, right? But God doesn't say, hey, go spend all your money and see if God's going to take care of you and give you more. That's not what God says in that whole thing. The third thing that the enemy does, right, is it's about worship. That's ultimately what the enemy wants. He wants people to worship him. He wants people to give him the worship that they're supposed to give God. And we all know God said, don't worship any other forms of God. Don't give your worship to anybody except for me. Right? So as we read through this Matthew, we get this is the crux from the very beginning. The enemy is trying to get Jesus off track. Right? Don't be obedient to God's plan. That's what he asked first. Right? Test God with the craziness. Right? Get out of God's protection. Right? And test to see if God's still going to protect you. When he said, don't do it, you go and do it. And then thirdly, how about if you worship somebody besides God? Like maybe me, right? Is what the enemy said. Again, all three of those things would have thrown Jesus off. He would have been totally not perfect. He wouldn't have been the unblemished sacrifice, and it wouldn't have taken away the sins of the world. So again, this is important, right? It's important for you and I, unperfect persons, to realize the enemy is going to test in the exact same ways. He wants you to do those same things, right? And he wants you to get off track from what God has for you. So, chew on that. We'll talk to you again. The Word.